Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and welcome back to another general discussion video. Now, this one is going to be mainly focused on endings and how a future Zelda game could have a particular bad ending. And this idea came about when I was in Trent's Discord server, and there was like this question about like, could a Zelda game or could any game in the future have a bad ending, and that kind of gave me the idea for this video. So yeah, and so to put it into perspective, every form of media like books, video games, TV shows, films, whatever, all have ending. They're all mainly the main character or characters defeats the main villain. That's the end. But there are some films and shows and games that do have a particular bad ending. Some of the games that do come to mind when it comes to a quote unquote bad ending is the Persona series or the more modern ones. For instance, in Persona 5, Royal, and 4 and 4 Golden, you will get a bad ending if you're playing Persona 5, you missed a particular deadline for a particular palace, or in Persona 4, you weren't able to save someone in the TV world. And the Zelda series, I think, is a good series to have a bad ending in. Like, and we kind of saw this a bit, and that being with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because in those games we kind of saw memories of the past, and they kind of showed us a particular bad ending for those games, and then later on we were able to save the whole of Hyrule from both Calamity Ganon and Ganondorf. And with the memories, I think they're a good example of how how a Zelda game could use a bad ending to its advantage, because in both memories, or in both amounts of memories that you collect throughout both games, you kind of see what each world kind of looks like. Because like, if you take both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as their own separate games and not make them sequels, and you just made the memories part of the main game, it's kind of interesting to see how each of the memories how help you explore more of the world and kind of like understand it. Because how I see the memories, you've got like the first few memories where you're kind of understanding a bit about the world and some of the characters. So in Breath of the Wild, we kind of see some of the champions. In the first memory, we kind of see Zelda interacting with Link here and there, just kind of scolding him a bit because of how he reminds her of her responsibilities of trying to unlock her healing, not healing, her sealing magic and stuff like that.
Gee, this is uplifting. She's making it sound like we already lost.
Wasn't this your idea? You're the one who wanted to designate the appointed knight with all the ceremonial pomp, grandeur, and nonsense we could muster. And if you ask me, the whole thing does seem to be overkill. I think I'm on the same page as the princess regarding this boy.
Oh, give it a rest. That boy is a living reminder of her own failures. Well, at least that's how the princess sees him.
Tell me the truth. How proficient are you right now wielding that sword on your back? Legend says that an ancient voice resonates inside it. Can you hear it yet, hero? I thought I made it clear that I'm not in need of an escort. It seems I'm the only one with a mind of my own. I, the person in question, am fine, regardless of the king's orders. Return to the castle and tell that to my father, please. And stop following me!
And it's the same with Tears of the Kingdom, where Zelda goes back to thousands of years in the past and meets both Rauru and Sonia.
Where am I?
We didn't mean to startle you. I'm sorry. It's okay. My name is Sonia.
And could we ask what your name is?
I am the daughter of King Rome of Hyrule, Zelda.
And then they kind of interact with her a bit, and then we kind of get to see sort of this sort of weird, I would say weird phase, or like sort of like high tension phase between some of the characters. So in Breath of the Wild, it was Zelda snapping at Link because he kept on following her around because he's kind of her personal bodyguard at the time.
And stop following me!
And then in Tears of the Kingdom, it was probably around when Ganondorf attacked, and then and roughly a while later became part of the Kingdom of Hyrule when it was quite young.
Hyrule will bow down before me. Allow me to offer you my deepest apologies. On behalf of the Gerudo, for taking so long to accept your repeated invitations. It is our desire to be accepted into the protective embrace of your kingdom, to serve it faithfully.
And then we kind of get to see more of the bad parts coming out. That being when Calamity Ganon was sealed, or was released from a seal to the events where Link had to be taken into the Shrine of Resurrection.
It helps when I think about.
This is it, then.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Take Link to the Shrine of Resurrection. If you don't get him there immediately, we are going to lose him forever. Is that clear? So make haste and go. His life is now in your hands.
And then in Tears of the Kingdom, when Ganondorf took Sonia's Secret Stone to the point where Rauru had to sacrifice himself in order to seal Ganondorf.
Your Majesty! Queen Sonia! Oh no! Queen Sonia!
That pride will be your downfall, Ganondorf!
if they were their own games, and if we were able to interact with the people in those cutscenes, that would be a really awesome and interesting way of doing a game, because like those cutscenes are basically us looking into the past and how each event's played out. And yeah, if this was an actual game, or they were two separate games, or they were like a small bit of DLC, so we could see more of that particular world or those two different worlds from a different angle, that would be kind of useful, and that'd be kind of interesting to see. So when it comes to the worlds of the games of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, if you look at the way that they're structured, from both when you see them in the memories and then when you see them when you're playing when you're running around, you can kind of, to me, it's kind of like shows that actions always have their consequences when it comes to video games and anything else that's has something to do with actions and consequences and stuff, because in the memories that you see in Breath of the Wild, for instance, I feel like King Rome was mainly wanted Zelda to unlock her sealing abilities quite quickly and fast before Calamity Ganon sealed away. And I think that he could see the potential in the Divine Beasts and the Guardians, but I feel like King Rome was mainly focused on Zelda's sealing ability, and just I probably thought that was like the main thing in that arsenal to use, instead of relying on the weapons that had some sort of help in the past. And yeah, and then later on when you meet him in the Temple of Time, after the 100 years time skip in the Shrine of Resurrection, you can kind of hear the regret in his voice a bit, because I feel like he now finally understands that he was too blindsided by Zelda's sealing ability.
That princess was my own daughter, my dear Zelda. Considering that I could not save my own kingdom, I have no right to ask this of you, Link. But I am powerless here. You must save her, my daughter, and do whatever it takes to annihilate Ganon.
And wanting her to unlock it, that because of that, it led to the Divine Beasts and the Guardians to be taken over by Calamity Ganon. And yeah, that's something quite interesting, and you lead to see that being the whole thing in being Hyrule being kind of taken over. And then it's kind of similar as well in Tears of the Kingdom, where I think Raru was kind of a bit negligent, kind of, on Ganondorf's ulterior motives, because I feel like Raru had some idea that Ganondorf wanted to take over Hyrule by any means necessary, but I feel like Raru didn't notice or didn't fully understand that Ganondorf wanted to take a secret stone, one of the secret stones that Raru had gifted onto himself, Sonia, Minoru, Zelda, the one that Zelda had, even though it's technically Raru's one from the future, and then as well as the stones that were given to the rest of the sages. And I feel like because of that, that's what led to Sonia being taken out by Ganondorf, her stone being taken, and then Raru having to sacrifice himself to save all of Hyrule, basically, to stop Ganondorf for a certain amount of time before Link and Zelda could find a way to defeat him. And yeah, that's kind of, and you can kind of see some of the some of the consequences that do kind of happen with this, that kind of affects the whole world. Because with Breath of the Wild, we saw Hyrule being destroyed. You've got ruins of like stuff like Hyrule Castle Town, Lon Ranch. But then you've got it's still thriving Hyrule. You've got people that you've got like the Sheikah. You've got the people over in Lurelin Village. You've got everybody else all over the world, and I feel like because of the events of the Great Calamity, the people in there are still rebuilding because the damage was pretty severe during the Great Calamity. So I feel like everyone is still recuperating a bit and still a bit fearful of whether Calamity Ganon could reappear itself, because it has been said that Calamity Ganon has appeared several times, like 10,000 years ago, then 100 years ago, and then most recently when Link woke up. So yeah, and then in Tears of the Kingdom, you kind of see more of the consequences and the actions being affected around the world of Hyrule. You can see that, like Rory's arm finally falling off of Ganondorf, and then him waking up. Then you see that you find out that Zelda, that you've been following around, is actually a puppet of Ganondorf.
What do you think? Hyrule Castle, perfect and glorious. Does it awaken memories? Memories of our time here? Well, really take in every detail. After all, this place will be the last thing you ever see.
And yeah, and then it's kind of, and I do like that, something like that. That's quite interesting to think about. And also, there's something I forgot to mention in the main video. I'm just adding this on to the part where I was talking about how the Great Calamity affected Hyrule and the events after 100 years later. I'm gonna mainly talk about how the world kind of is affected in Tears of the Kingdom a bit. So in that game, you actually get to see how Hyrule is slowly building itself back up, and I do like that. It's like, I think, for example, Lookout Landing. I think that's a good place to see how Hyrule is slowly picking itself back up and just rebuilding the pieces of itself, and slowly, but it's a slow process. But I think that's a really good area of seeing how Hyrule is trying to fight off all the different monsters after the Great Calamity. And you can see like that with, as I said before, in Lookout Landing, and you can see like if you look around, you can see how it's not the best in terms of, the other areas in the game, because Lookout Landing is just sticks and stones and a underground shelter area where you can find other people, and also a map where all the different locations are when it comes to the events of the Great Upheaval, and where the locations of the temples are. And I do like how you can see some of the NPCs just walking about, as well as attacking the monsters directly in a huge group, because in Breath of the Wild, you'll probably see one or two people being attacked by monsters here and there. And I do like how in Tears of the Kingdom, you have a huge army, or not a huge army, but like a decent amount of people attacking monsters together, instead of just being like one or two people and Link just helping them. And I would say overall you can just see how well Hyrule is. And I do like how not only do everyone living on the surface of Hyrule is adapting to this whole to the whole upheaval, to everything that's happened between to the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I also do like how Koga, the leader of the Yiga clan, is also adapting to his surroundings, because he is now in the underground, in the depths of Hyrule, because in the previous game he was pushed down this giant chasm hole thing by one of his own tricks, and now he's in the depths, and he had to adapt with that along with the Yiga clan. And I do like how, because he had to adapt, he's created all these weird machines, especially, like, for instance, he's created a flying machine with, like, a glider, a stick, or steering stick, some fans, and a cart. And for one of those fights, he is mainly on water, so he has to use this sort of like boat contraption thing which he's made along with his other members, and that's really cool. And I do really like how he adapts along with Hyrule, except he's in this huge cave chasm thing, while everyone else is up top with, with their own stuff. So I do really like that. So yeah, now it's back to the main video. Yeah, and I think some of the things that could help with this, like, well, before I focus on what I was about to say, it's like I wanted to focus mainly on two more memories that I want to focus on. It depends on how much I think I would say about four memories or so, 3 or 4, and 2 of them being, I think, the secret memories that you can unlock, or yeah. So basically, one of them is the final memory you can unlock in Breath of the Wild, and the other one is one from Mineru, from her, once you've been in her dungeon. And what I like about those ones, and especially I would say the memory where Zelda talks to Mineru about becoming a dragon, because what I like about that cutscene is that it kind of has a bit more of an uplifting tone to it in some parts. So because they use some of the themes from previous games, so for the memory where Raru is dealing with Gandalf, that uses the main Zelda theme.
You're wrong. Years from now, someone will appear with the sword that seals the darkness. A swordsman with the power to defeat you, Link. Remember this name.
Link. Interesting. I look forward to meeting you.
And then for the secret memory in Breath of the Wild, and the memory where Zelda talks about becoming a dragon, they both use Fi's theme.
The sword. So he can still be saved? Over time, the Master Sword is able to absorb sacred power. It can heal itself, and even grow stronger.
Curious. If we were able to empower it in that way, it could be the key to defeating the Demon King.
And to me personally, I feel like that those cutscenes give hope to us, to both Zelda, the character, and Mineru, and Raru, and the rest of the stages, and as well as us, the players, because we know that both Link and the Master Sword, in whatever games they appear in, will always be interlinked with each other. So because this Master Sword will always be wielded by the person who has a courageous spirit, and that's really cool. And I do like the little themes that those cutscenes use, and it gives us hope that something's gonna happen. And yeah, I feel like a future Zelda game should take advantage of that. Like, have a villain that's in the shadows somewhat, and we get to see bits and pieces of them. We could see them, it could be something like, it could take elements from Ocarina of Time, maybe, where we do see the main villain. We get to see him like 2 or 3 times, and then we find out that at the end of the game, they take over all of Hyrule or whatever kingdom the next game is in, because there have been other kingdoms before in past Zelda games, and it could be a different land, it could be Hyrule again, maybe. And I feel like when it comes to the final boss, it'll be the same as usual, like you have to fight the final boss here and there, but then during the final phase, you are the one that's getting overpowered, and then they'll probably lead into a sequel, maybe, or maybe just a bit of DLC, just so that particular game could be wrapped up nicely. So it could be something like that, where the main villain wins, and that'd be so cool, because you don't really see a lot of endings in films, TV shows, or games or whatever, where the main villain actually wins and actually defeats the main characters and stuff like that. So having a future Zelda game where the main villain actually wins for once and actually just does what they set out to do, and take over Hyrule, get a beat of the Triforce, get the 4 Triforce or whatever, that was something really cool to see. So yeah, so that's been my main discussion about how a bad ending could be seen in the Future Zelda game. So that's been it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.